This is so awesome, man.
Yeah, I know.
You're making our day today. This is so cool.
I'm kind of
probably the whole
it's all
month.
downhill from here, guys. You know what I mean? Top of the mountain, baby.
That's right.
Hey guys, welcome to another edition with Joe Ken Around.
Special edition.
Oh, special edition.
That's right.
Yep.
Got
I'm
some video.
Ken,
This is Joe.
and I'm Ken Joeing Around. What the heck?
You're doing that wrong. So I'm Joe. This is
Ken.
And together we're
Joking Around.
There you go.
All right. Well, obviously you guys are seeing us, so that's a big difference. Normally you don't have to stare at us. We're only in the ears normally, so this is a little bit weird.
It's totally different. I love
Joe's
it.
used to being in front of the camera. I am not. I am built for behind the scenes.
No.
But,
Not at all. We look good, man.
Joe and I went to Comic-Con this past weekend, and Joe's an artist. Everybody knows Joe's the artist. He's the famous, big, world-renowned artist. But I'm the comic book nerd, right? So there's a guy at Comic-Con who I always go bug and bring him like a stack of books to sign. And it's like right on the edge of like, really, dude? You're going to bring me like...
bring
like
that
that's
much?
a lot, but okay. And I always get him to sign the books. But please welcome Mr. Robert Venditti.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Good
Yeah.
to see you. And man, I'll just say, you have not brought me anywhere near as many books as you make it sound. Like I have dudes show up with like a whole short box
No
of
way.
like 200 books in it. You know what
Really?
I mean?
And do you
So,
sign them all?
Yeah, man. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Like, I mean, who am I to not sign a book for somebody?
I
you know what I'm
guess.
saying? Like,
yeah. I mean, but 200.
If it's like, if there's a line or it's a busy show or whatever, I'll say leave it here and I'll chip away at it
Sure,
and come back in
yeah.
a few
Yeah.
hours or whatever, But I always try to
away at
sign everything that everybody brings.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
really cool, man. And the reason why I really wanted Joe to meet you was because you're constantly putting out really good stories. So Joe loves the art, right? But he hasn't really read the comic books as much as I have. And so
Sure,
like
yeah.
I keep finding like the stories I kept gravitating to had the same name on it. I was like, oh, it's the Robert guy again. He did Hawkman. Okay, he did Green Lantern and Superman. So I made Joe read this.
Yes. Oh, he
Which
didn't have
one?
to. He didn't have to make me,
Oh,
but
nice.
you get what it.
He
Yeah,
made you.
yeah. He forced me to
What
read.
did you have to
it.
do in return? Did you have to move his refrigerator or something?
Yeah, I was like, read this, do it now. Well, no, but there's a big connection here, and in our previous episodes, the listeners know that we have a huge connection to Superman, to Chris Reeves, and our father's a musician, and we were heavily involved in like the cinematic world of like early Superman stuff.
We watched the early cartoons. I mean, George Reeves, even before him,
Kirk Allen,
Like we grew up watching all of that,
the serial stuff.
Yep.
You know,
And big time John Williams, like original scores.
Oh, yeah.
They
Yeah,
made such
for
an
sure.
impact and still do today.
Oh, for sure.
You hear that true Superman theme, and
It's one of the most recognizable pieces of music on the planet.
Yeah.
And even if I don't know, like I can't sort of deprogram myself, but I would venture to say that if I had never heard it before and I suddenly heard it, my hair would stand on end and I wouldn't even know why.
That's right. Yep.
It's just like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We listened to it today, getting kind of psyched and pumped up and just having the ball, and it literally it happened again. Like it doesn't matter how many times I listen to it, especially when it gets to some key elements.
Joe still runs around in his underwear. And
Nice.
he hurt himself.
Underoos action.
Yeah,
I
he
did.
hurt himself hopping over the equipment here and everything.
It's all right. I'm all right. It's fine.
Yeah. So,
but classic meets modern.
Yeah.
It's like something fresh has happened here because you re-brought to life for me.
Yeah.
And my son, by the way, Lincoln, who you met. I had him read the last portion of the book out loud to me in the car again this morning before school.
Nice.
And we were just like so impressed by some of the key moments in the story. For instance, the throwing of the S, a few other areas where it's just both visually and story recaptured as if it were happening for real in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, but now in book form. And that blew me away that I felt that.
Yeah.
Like, even just looking, over my shoulder at like the images and then him saying it and reading through the script and describing it and voicing it. It was awesome. It was a cool experience. I loved it.
Yeah.
Loved the book.
Yeah, one of the nicest compliments that we've gotten about the series is that, particularly in the first, what you would call the first issue in the collection, it's, I don't know, I think it's page 10 or something. But it's the first time that he opens up his shirt. You see the S and he takes off flying. There's two panels, one on top of the other, know. And when I wrote the script for Wilfredo, I said, we're going to try something here, and I don't know if it's going to work. We're going to go silent on this page, and my hope is that when people read this, they hear the music.
Yeah.
And like so many people have said to us, when I see this page, I can hear the music start to swell. If you think about how hard that is to do with a comic book, which is a static medium that has no sound put to it whatsoever, but for Wilfredo to be able to evoke sound that you don't hear through just imagery is really pretty extraordinary. And so the little experiment there worked out, and we're both just super proud of the book.
My next question kind of follows that. Like, how did you get? Did you pick the artist? Did you have to kind of have a little come to Jesus meeting with the artist and be like, look, you really got to do it this way, or did you just say, hey man, go to it?
So the editor on the book, Andrew Marino, is an editor that I worked with a lot at DC. I started off my Hawkman run with him.
Yeah.
I did all my Green Lantern issues with him.
Yeah.
A ton of stuff. And so I didn't read comic books growing up at all. I had an older brother that did. I did not. And so as I got older and I decided I wanted to write comics, I didn't have a lot of continuity knowledge or things like that, And so whenever DC would come to me and say, we want you to write Green Lantern, we want you to pitch for Green Lantern or whatever, my response, no matter what the character is, pretty much was always, he's green and I guess he's got a lantern, but I don't know what it does, but I'll go research it for you and I'll come up with something, And for better or for worse, I think it's something that's always sort of set me apart from a lot of other writers, because kind of the way that I say it is you can't fake stupid. Like, if I had spent my whole life reading comic books, I would know that Carter Hall and Katar Hole are two separate people, not connected. So the first time I sat down to read about it, I wouldn't think in my head, oh, I get it, he reincarnates across time and space. I purely think of that because I have no knowledge of who the character is. But every time I would have those conversations with editors at DC, I would always say, I do love the Christopher Reeve films. Like, I do remember seeing those in theaters when I was a kid. It's like a very formative entertainment experience for me,
Sure. Yeah.
And so when they finally decided, which they'd never done all these years, I don't know why, to do comics set in the Superman 78 universe, Andrew Marino was the editor, and he came to me and asked me if I wanted to pitch for it. And it's the first time that I've ever been asked to pitch for something that I did know the continuity and I understood everything, And so I'm a huge fan of the films, particularly the first two. And Wilfredo Torres is the same way. Andrew knew him as an artist, and Wilfredo has the same love of the films that I do.
Comes through.
And so I started writing, and I didn't know it was going to be him in the very beginning, but then after I found out it was him, I never had to communicate to him the importance of certain things or whatever.
Awesome.
Like, he understood all of that innately, and so much more of it that I didn't even, you know, like little Easter eggs that he put in there, and like all these little things that he built stuff out, because in addition to really understanding the films, Wilfredo also has a deep knowledge and understanding of, you know, DC continuity and things like that. So there's all kinds of little pieces of, you know, things that he threw in there. And so we were on the same page from the very beginning. And, you know, my scripts tend to be pretty communicative in terms of emotion and things like that. And, you know, referencing, you know, Clark Kent and how Christopher Reeve would act with Clark Kent, you know, the swinging of the arms and the hunched shoulders and, you know, how he'd able to just transform into another person on camera. And Wilfredo, you know, knew all those things and was able to capture all that stuff. And
They feel like stills from the movie, like and some of them might even be in, like it feel like he just paused the movie and it's like, oh yeah, that's exactly
soaked up that spot how he just like
oh yeah. I mean, you get that feeling when you read it, and anybody who's seen the film automatically has that connection to it. I think that's why people love it so much.
There's a couple spots where the expressions you wouldn't think to put it in on a new Superman, but they caught it from the Christopher Reeves version of like when he's really pushing really hard and one of his eyes kind of starts to close. It's something that only he does when he's flying or he's under a lot of pressure and he's
that
fighting.
Little one side smirk. He does,
the little smirk on that side. Yeah. And you're like, that's him. Like, so you just.
That's me right before I sneeze. I'm like,
but it transforms you there. That's what I meant by the art and everything. It was really, really cool. Love the book. It was so awesome. So much fun.
Well, Fredo is just extraordinary. And it was such a joy to be able to work in that because you really get to you're only beholden to the film continuity, right? So we were able to do things that you could never do in the comics. Like we wanted to have Brainiac as a villain.
Yes.
And we were able to have the robot version of Brainiac and the green skin version of Brainiac and kind of make a continuity of why they both exist, And so things we were able to do with Clark Kent's parents, not Clark Kent's parents, Superman, Kal-El's parents. That we're able to do with him and tying it to the Brainiac mythology in a way that you couldn't do in the comics. But when you think of the films, I really tried to sit down and think about where would Richard Donner have headed and why would he have had, Jor-El and Lara on screen as much as he did in the first films, if not to do something with them down the road, and obviously I don't know the answers and I've never read his diary or anything like that, but I just tried to think of if I was going to do something with these characters in the third movie, and these first two movies are what I have in hand, what might I have done, And so it just freed us up to do a lot of things and still make it a very Superman story in terms of who the character is, what the character represents, the values, the ethics, all those kinds of things. The same version of Superman you would get in the comics, but a story that could only be told in the film universe version of it,
How did he come up with the design of the Brainiac? Because that was very like period appropriate, like the suit, the colors, and like it just looked like it was something Richard Donner would have created. Yeah, with the way he looks.
I think a lot of those costume details are related to sort of that green skin version of Brainiac from like the 70s, but then they added different flourishes to it that would be film appropriate of that era. But as far as like, casting Brainiac, Fredo chose David Bowie. And if you think about when those films were made, I'm a huge Bowie fan. Like I love David Bowie.
I could see that
and
now.
He really would be the perfect Brainiac.
Yeah.
He would be the perfect Brainiac. Just to pull off that aloofness, but also be sympathetic in his own way.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of it was Wilfredo for sure.
Yeah. I liked how you said that there was both versions existing between the robot and the person side of it, and how it actually matched in there as well too. And
and Lex, oh man, just how you had him speaking. I mean, just the subtle things, like each time he would kind of still have his pious view of himself, kind of squeezed in there with a new phrase. That was just so like, that's what he would do. Like, that's what you would imagine him doing, the greatest criminal mind of our time, and then the next time it was the next version of it. That was brilliant.
That's all he cared about. That and real estate is all Lex really ever cared about.
Yeah. He wanted to prove how mind he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's interesting because, I don't even know how many issues have been written with Superman in it, right? But it's thousands. I mean, there's been 1,000 issues of Action Comics, and then add in Superman titles and Man of Steel and everything, right? Yep. But I think if you go anywhere in the world, the film versions from Superman 78 are the definitive versions of these characters, meaning that when you say Superman to somebody, they think of Christopher Reeve, And I think when you say Lex Luthor, most people are going to think of Gene Hackman, And he's obviously very different in the films than Lex is in the comics. Lex is much more suave and much more serious, and I would almost not say gritty, but
younger sometimes.
He's not fun. You know what I'm saying? And so the film version of him, Gene Hackman was able to just bring out these things in the character where he's still very formidable, but He's also very fun.
Yeah.
And again, as so much of that comes down to the acting performance of those people, and then Wilfredo being able to capture that. I could write that dialogue and make it sound like, the Gene Hackman version of Lex Luthor all day long. But if the art isn't able to communicate the postures and the smirks and the expressions and all those kinds of things, it really all just falls flat. So, it really is. It really is both of us working together.
I'm almost, if I could, I have a question along those lines actually that I think that brought to light. Oh, please! What do I got to do? I could beg. Just being able to work with an artist. So when Ken and I were just kind of messing around in here, he played a little Superman theme, and I happened to be reading the book out loud.
Oh my goodness!
And we don't have to reveal that. Ken, show that
we got
later.
Film of this. I got to get a replay on this.
I got the clip right here. No,
no, please no. I mean, I played Lois Lane and everything. It was great.
Nice.
But when I was doing that, I noticed that you would need a screen. I guess it would be called a screenwrite of like actually what's taking place, whereas the art does that already for the book.
Yeah.
So your communication when you're writing, do you have like suggested like things around the writing, or are you writing what we're seeing first? I mean, I know there's probably revisions and all that going on, but are you suggesting, a view of who's walking, entering, left, right, all those kinds of things?
Yeah, so it depends. Different times, different things. I always communicate the emotions of the characters because that's the most important thing. And there's words you can say that can be interpreted a million different ways, right?
Sure.
So I always try to describe the emotions of the characters. I also will describe the setting when we first walk into it. Like if this is the first time we see Lex's apartment, this is the kind of apartment that he lives in, and it's, got bent blinds, or the plaster's a little cracked because he's out of money, and, those kinds of things. There's a lot more of that you have to do in the beginning of a script, because as you return to settings, you don't have to describe the settings again.
Yeah. Okay.
But also with this project in particular, so much of it exists on screen already, the way the Daily Planet looks, Perry's office, Lois's office, all these kinds of things, right? And so a lot of it is already established, and you can just see the reference. So I didn't really do that much of describing the scenes. Now, there were certain things where, Lex, the secret wall slides back in his crappy apartment, and behind it, he's got a hidden lab. And
that was
so
cool.
I described that hidden lab, but then Wilfredo comes in and adds certain elements to it, like the Lex armor and stuff like that, right? And that's just the collaborative nature of it, and him bringing his knowledge of DC continuity that even I don't really have in so much a way. You know what I mean? So in the beginning, script 1, script 2, you tend to describe those things a lot more. But as you're working with an artist and you see that they get it, like Hawkman would be a great example.
Yeah.
Like I would say my first couple of plots that I wrote for Brian Hitch were pretty descriptive, and around about the third issue, I was like, I just only need to say like 2 words to this dude.
He already knows the scene.
Yeah,
man.
he's got it all figured out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, it's more than just about communicating emotion. So they're drawing the facial expressions and understanding the drama of the scene. But like, I'm not picking angles or things.
Right.
I mean, I will if I say like this is a wide shot or it's a bird eye view. And it's something that's important to the storytelling in some way. But I'm not doing over the shoulder shots and things like that.
Like you said with the throwing of the S, was that something that you were obviously like, I want to maintain a quiet moment there?
Well, I didn't want to I didn't want to put as many sound effects in it as I would have probably in a normal comic, just because it was supposed to be a film, you know what I'm trying to say? So I didn't want to do as many comic booky type effects. We certainly have those in there when they're clear,
Yeah.
But sometimes I didn't. And with like the throwing of the S, that ended up being a controversial thing that I didn't even know was going to be controversial. I just remember being in theaters and watching it, and it blew my mind when he did that. It was the craziest, coolest thing I ever saw.
Wrap.
Yeah. And so like when when I did the cellophane S, there were all these people who came out of the woodwork and were like, I can't believe you did that.
No way,
really? And I was just like, man, how could I not?
You
do
have
that,
to.
Yeah. So that's the kind of fun stuff. And Wilfredo was 100% on board.
That's
he's
cool
just
here.
like, absolutely, man. We're gonna draw. And when I told him afterwards, I was like, man, I didn't know this was gonna be such a like controversial thing or whatever. And he's like, "Oh, you didn't know?" Like he totally knew, you know. But
well, there's different versions of the film too. There's like the TV version,
right?
With the Donner cut, Like,
well, I think Richard Lester was responsible for the Cellophane S. Who was the director who came in and replaced Donner. And a lot of people ask me that too. You know, like, did you watch the Donner cut, or is this the Donner cut version, whatever? And so I used the material that everybody else saw in the theater. That is the version of the film that everybody knows and is familiar with. And I've never seen the Donner cut. I don't want to see the Donner cut until someday when I'm done working on it.
Okay, when you're done. When you're done.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
But I don't want it. I don't want it leaking in and me accidentally doing something that is not, because for better or for worse, you know, whatever your opinion is, that version of the film that appeared in theaters is the version that everybody has cemented in their brain. And so that's the version I want to stick to.
So
I like that. Though.
Yeah, one of the Easter eggs I caught.
Oh, I got
and
one
I
too.
couldn't.
There's no way you caught them all.
There's one of them.
So many.
But there's one. It's Addis Ababa that's in there. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
It's on like a rack or something at the end.
Yeah.
And I was like,
he's got
my
the
son
bingo machine in there.
Okay, my son picked up on the Shaggy, maybe.
Yeah, there's Shaggy in there. The Goonies are in there.
The Goonies.
I didn't see the Goonies yet. I missed.
Barney Miller and his people are in it.
Wow.
Whoa.
I think Barney Miller might be in the same shot as Shaggy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then Richard Pryor's in it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
That's so cool.
He did a lot of things with comic Easter eggs. Like he had in Brainiac's ship, he had like a little light bulb ship from like this old Justice League cartoon where he looks like he's flying around on a light bulb. I'd never heard of this thing before.
I know exactly what
it's in the Brainiac ship. And then when he draws some of the other Brainiac things, I think they have different costumes for different eras of Brainiac. Like Wilfredo did a ton of stuff. I'm sure I don't even know them all.
Yeah,
you know?
He's probably laughing right now, like, you know, just knowing that there's still people who haven't seen some things he's put in there.
Yeah, he's a great dude too. I mean, just super awesome guy.
Yeah, he's on next after you. So
yep, he's in the green room right now and here.
Nice. He gets the green room. I didn't get. The green
he's got the green
M&Ms.
M&Ms
hanging out in my house.
It's a closet. Don't worry. It's nothing special. But speaking of green, you worked on something else. You worked on something else here.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite covers here.
That's a good one.
Little guy called Green Lantern. Like you said before, it was something where you were like, you didn't have a lot of background to it.
Yeah,
really.
just the green guy.
No.
Yeah, no, I didn't know a lot about Green Lantern, and I was coming in after Jeff Johns, who had written the defining run of the character. You know, and his last issue was Green Lantern number 20, and my first issue was Green Lantern number 21. You know, at that point in my career, I think I'd probably written 5 comic books, you know, 10.
Yeah.
And I'd written maybe 3 comic books for DC, you know, so not only did I not know anything about Green Lantern, I didn't know anything about DC Comics, and I didn't really know a whole lot about writing superhero comics. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like those early issues were as successful as I would like for them to have been in retrospect. But I think I ended up staying on Green Lantern for 86 issues.
Yeah, man.
Going all the way through Rebirth.
It was on there for forever.
Which nobody would have pegged. When I started that, they didn't think I'd make it 12.
Right.
But I was there for 86 issues.
Yeah.
And I think if you read that run from Green Lantern 21 all the way through to the Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps number 50, you really see an evolution of a writer learning and understanding the medium and learning and understanding the DC universe and learning and understanding the character.
Yeah.
In a way that I think is really cool, you know, and it was interesting because there were a lot of people who really hated me in the beginning and just really said discouraging things to me, you know, on social and things. And I knew that I was coming into a pressure scenario following Jeff Johns. The way I tried to look at it was I'd rather be the person who takes a shot and fails than the person who always wonders what if.
Yep.
Now, Jeff Johns, not only, aside from being, you know, the best Green Lantern writer ever, probably, he also was chief creative officer of DC, you know, at the time he was writing. So, like, you know, there's a lot of things going on there that I just didn't have. And so to me, I always think of it as, I've said this a lot of times in interviews, and it's like when, you know, you have a first day on the job and you replace somebody who was like a 22-year veteran of the job before you and was like awesome at it. And like your first day of work, somebody leans over the cubicle and just goes, "You suck." And it's like, dude, you know, like
chill, man. I'm
it's my first day, man. Like didn't anybody ever have a first day on the job? You know,
not in comics.
So, yeah,
you're not allowed that. Yeah,
no.
On the one hand, like I don't. On the one hand, I understand it because they're still paying the same $3.99 for my comic that they did for Jeff Johns.
Sure, yeah.
And they want a certain level of quality out of it. But on the other hand, you're an artist, Joe, you know, nobody comes fully formed to the drawing table. You know what I'm saying? So like you have to learn and you have to grow and you have to figure out your way around. And so a lot of people will ask me, you know, would I go back and do things differently and what have you, you know? I mean, I was writing crossovers with 5 different Green Lantern books and I've never even written a monthly comic before. You know what I'm saying? Like I was doing crazy stuff. And so
you were swinging for the fences for it though, man, because once you get
but
to
a lot of it also, and
once you get to Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, that's where I feel like it hit a stride, at least for me when I was reading it, where
that's 100% right.
It hit a stride and I loved it. I love what you did with the old Sinestro stuff. And then,
that's 100%. Yeah. I when they came to me and told me they were going to do Rebirth, and they said the books were going to be double shipped. They're going to come out twice a month. Mm-hmm. At the time, I was writing Green Lantern and The Flash. And I was like, well, I can't do both. And I said, I want to do Green Lantern because now I know what I'm doing. Yeah. Now I understand it. This will be a fresh start for me to go ahead and really show people what I can do. Yeah. And I'm extremely proud of the Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern Corps run, professionally, but also on a personal level because of, you know, what of my own life went into the writing of those stories. And I do not get there without the 32 issues of Green Lantern that I don't really like all that much, right? Because I had to learn from those mistakes before I got to Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern Corps. And so I don't have any regrets about any of it, you know?
I if I can butt in too, I 100% am with you on that. There have been people who say, hey, would you have done this differently or that? And even just thinking about it myself, I know I had like a cool opportunity that on social media that kind of blew up and gave me my opportunity, but they don't know about all the other failures before that I think a lot of people would have said they were done. And so unless I tell them that, they don't know. They just think that I just woke up one day and got like semi-famous doing a video. Like it just happened, you know? And I mean, well, it kind of did.
Every overnight success has been working on it for 10 years.
Yeah,
you know?
Right.
It only took 10
people
years.
People just don't see that.
Yeah. And I've no way put my success in my art on your level in any way, but that was something that I personally experienced as well. And I'm really fascinated because, like Ken said, I'm playing catch up right now on reading and understanding the comic side of, especially with DC Comics, because I'm probably more of a fan of the DC art personally and everything, but also the Superman background, a little bit of the Batman, but mostly Superman, and how much passion I had in the cinema of it. And now kind of like reading backwards into it with what are the stories that pushed some of the new stuff coming out, sure, but even the original content that I saw. And it's cool, I guess, all this to say that that's kind of how you experienced that. And I know we came full circle on it, but that just hit me in a special way that a writer who's doing what he's doing on this level, you know, kind of had to reverse everything and do it backwards, you know?
Well, that, and you had to double down on it because had you like stopped halfway through Green Lantern, then like, it's like everybody would kind of been right, I guess. Cause
like, oh, he didn't do it.
And then you don't let that build into something else. You know, I'd find that difficult from my perspective.
Like, I don't know what y'all's background is, right? Y'all said your father is a musician, right? Mm-hmm. So, my dad was a construction worker and till his body couldn't take it anymore. And then he sold concrete, you know. My mom was a court reporter. There was nobody in my family that was in the arts in any way, shape, or form. Nobody of my friends' parents or families, like nobody I ever interacted with that was in the arts at all. So to me, the idea that I do this for a living isn't rational. Like I make up stories in my head and somebody mails me a check for that. Like that's not where I come from, you know? Like my mother was a reader. My grandfather was a reader. My mom was always putting books in my hand and having me read things, you know, way above what kids would normally be reading, you know, at a young age. And I'd always wanted to be a writer, and she and my grandfather were extremely supportive of that, you know, and like they always treated me like it was a possibility, but I didn't know, I never had witnessed it. So to me, there's just no way that I wouldn't double down because I've already done it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like every day is a gift. And the idea that you come up to me at a convention and ask me to sign your books is absurd. Like, that's not where I come from. It never gets old. Like, it surprises me every time. And I know that sounds like affectation or like I'm, being disingenuous or something, but I'm not. I'm telling you straight up. Every time somebody asks me for my autograph, I smile and I'm like, I can't, this is wild. If my grandfather could see me now,
that's cool.
And what I'm doing,
man.
So for me, there are risks, to take Green Lantern or to double down on it when I could have cut and run and just been like, nah, I want a fresh start with something else.
Yeah.
But to be able to do those things, to me, what would I be running scared from?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what do I have to be scared of? Like, every day is a gift, and so that's just always the way I try to look at it.
It's a beacon to guys like me and my brother and a lot of others out there who are reading, because
absolutely
that, I kid you not, that book alone, if that was all I had from you, there was a bit of light to it that's just shining. I know that's kind of behind the Superman anyway, but there's something else in the writing, in the art, in the whole collection of what it stands for that I think could be, it's only shining brighter the darker things get anyway around you, and we don't have to get super crazy on any deep talk.
I say that. No, I literally say that quote all the time in interviews. I say that quote. Superman is how I'm wired, and I think that when I was a kid and I saw it in theaters, I think that's the reason why the character resonated with me so much. I saw on the screen a character who represented certain things and behaved certain ways that I hoped and I wanted the world to be like, and like I have no interest in writing Batman, like I'm not a Batman person. I don't want grim. I don't want gritty. Like I'm a Superman person.
I put this Batman up there for that very person to remember to ask you.
No.
Here's what we do.
But the idea that people think,
there we go. That's better.
Covered him up.
There.
You always say, you always hear the same things, like Superman's a Boy Scout and he's corny and the world is too dark for Superman. And I always say, the darker things are, the brighter he would shine. You know, and I believe that people are inherently good, and I believe the best of people, and that the world is a good place. And if I didn't believe that, I don't know what would make me get out of bed in the morning and want to create stories. And that's not to say that people who have a darker view or are nihilistic or whatever don't have a valid artistic viewpoint. Of course they do. That's just not me, and it's not how I'm wired. It's not ever been how I'm wired, and I don't find Superman to be corny. And I think the idea that they've tried to destroy him and gritty him up so many times, and it gets rejected every single time.
Exactly.
Because there's something about that S and there's something about that music that you just can't break. It is unbreakable.
Yeah.
And they keep trying and they can't do it, And so it's a huge, it really makes me feel good to hear you say that, Joe, because it is Superman and I am writing that character, but I also feel like I'm the right person I'm one of the right people to write Superman. I'm not the only one, but I'm the right person for the character, and I'm glad that comes across in the stories.
Yeah, man.
100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
What was your opinion on Superman Returns?
And I have one more question after that. I got
Which one was Superman Returns?
That's
was
the Brandon Ruth. That was like Chris Reeve-esque. It was like...
Yeah, I don't remember. I only saw it once.
Okay.
I don't remember like really not liking it. I remember not liking like the Lex Luthor plot of it.
Sure.
Yep.
Like with the meteor filled with kryptonite and all that kind of stuff. I just didn't think that plot-wise it held up. But I don't remember not liking it, and I didn't dislike Henry Cavill's
Man of
Superman
Steel.
either, but I do think there are certain things about
writing.
those films.
Bad writing. This is bad writing. I thought he was all right,
there are certain things about those films that to me don't really compute with who the character is or who a lot of the characters are in a lot of ways, like Batman just emptying a pump action shotgun into people. It's just like, this is not Batman, so I mean, that's my opinion of it.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It must be said. Someone's got to
slam on Zack Snyder. There's Zack Snyder films that I've seen that I really enjoyed, It's just not my interpretation of the character, you know? And
Sure.
like when I saw Man of Steel, I was like, was this movie filmed in a world without light bulbs? Like even like the darkness of everything is just kind of dark, you know? And it's just not who the character is, you know? And as great as Henry Cavill looks in the suit, I wouldn't say that I ever found his Clark Kent to be
right.
Yeah,
as convincing.
That's one thing that
like
has to be mastered.
he just looked like Henry Cavill with glasses on. Like everybody knows that's Superman.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
I mean, I know it's as a kid, so maybe there's an honest look at it or an innocent look at it, but even today I still feel similar about it. So I just got to say it that his version, Reeves' version of Clark Kent just had that like certain personality that it, like you said, it's iconified, and he did so well at like his mannerisms, like you said, with his shoulders in a little bit,
a little bit, his arms, kind of dropping his shoulders in.
The way you captured in the writing,
that they wouldn't know he was Superman when they saw him. Like it's believable.
I didn't even
like Henry Cavill. You're like, that's still a really good looking dude right there. You know what I'm saying?
Like,
he's super hot. You know what I mean? Like I'm pretty sure everybody knows he's Superman.
Oh man, it's so true.
Yeah.
Where'd he go? It's like same.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's a couple spots in the first film that I think of when Chris Reeves does that, when he's about to tell Lois that he's Superman, when they're going to go on the flying date, you know? And he stands up, and just the whole persona change, and his voice changes, and which the voice change is actually reminiscent of the radio shows, and in the Max Fleischer cartoons, he'd be like, Clark Kent would talk up here, and then this looks like a job for Superman. You know, I don't have a low voice, I can't do it. But that was like, it was the whole persona change from like the innocent, bumbling, just doofus guy who's just in the way all the time. You know, that's why people look right past him, kind of idea. And yeah, I agree. It is missed in a lot of the newer stuff too. And there's a lot of great stories that get missed because of that. Some of my favorite parts of Superman are the funny Clark Kent bits.
He is.
They're
Clark
non-existent.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Superman, like Clark Kent is hiding out as Superman, not the other way around. You know what I'm saying? Like he is that guy, you know, like that's who he is. Clark Kent. That's who he is. And so the Clark Kent version is just as, if not more so important than the Superman version of the character. When you're writing, you know, you really have to get that version, Clark Kent, down, because it's so much of what makes, you know, and you know, Clark Kent has this kind of hokey Smallville, oh, you're sending your paycheck, don't tell me you send your paycheck to your mother, you know what I mean, like kind of vibe about him that seems so unbelievable and corny when he's Clark Kent.
Actually,
but then when he's Superman, he espouses the same exact values and ethics, and everybody buys into it. You know what I mean? And so, like, you can't have the character without having both sides of him. You know? Yeah.
So, what's next?
So that's my
realm?
So, is there a 2? Was there a 2? Did I miss anything? Update me, please, on what you can say. What's going on? What are we doing?
Yeah, so I
want more.
They did just announce like another collected version of it, where they're going to have a slipcase version. If you take the jacket off the book you guys have, it looks like a VHS tape. I don't know if you've seen that.
What?
Like,
take
the cover off.
Another Easter egg.
Okay, here we go. Yes.
Yeah.
Be careful.
Don't rip it.
I'm not gonna rip it. Now you got me nervous.
Rip it, dude. I'll have to buy another one.
All right, there we go. Cover is off.
Oh, no way.
I didn't even know that was there.
Dude, that even has like the silver Superman logo on there, too. It's got some
like scratches
scribbled on
the side here, written in. I don't know if you can see that really clearly, guys, but that is awesome. For the listeners, they don't see it at all, but it looks epically sick.
I am green
so
with envy.
They did a Batman 89 set in the Michael Keaton film universe that looks that way when you take the jacket off too, and so they're going to release both of those hardcovers in a slipcase that looks like a VHS case, and put them both in there.
I saw that. Okay,
so
they
just announced
sense.
that,
so they could like sit in. Okay,
yeah. So they just announced that, which is super cool. And then I do have I mean, it's in the bio, so I'm not giving anything away, but they haven't formally announced it yet. But if you read the bio in the jacket there, it says I'm working on the next Superman 78 story. So.
Yeah.
And I've already written the whole new story, and the artist has almost drawn the entire thing.
Yeah,
so
he's going to tell
it'll be
us
out,
all
I
about
think,
it.
probably
right
in
now.
the fall. No, I will not.
He's going to tell us all about it.
Be out. Yeah, it'll be out in the fall, probably, I think. And
Ken, hack his
I'll keep
computer
doing
right
these
now.
stories as long as they want me to. I'll keep doing the stories. I love doing them, and I like doing his miniseries too because they feel like they're separate films. Like when you go see Superman, you got to wait 2 years to see Superman 2. And like so I like the idea that you read it, and then you got to wait a little while for the next one. It feels more like a film structure as opposed to something that would be like an ongoing that was every month. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
So
yeah, I've already done the second one, and hopefully we'll keep doing more.
Is it the same artist?
Different artist.
You can't tell
wait
me
for
that?
the announcement.
Okay. I'm poking
Joe
too much.
Everson.
Yeah.
I just haven't gotten the call yet, apparently. But
how do we get Joe into comic books, man? I've been working on that for a long time. He's finally
it sounds like he's on his way.
Yeah,
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
We need to get some people he needs to talk to, and he's finally doing like the pen and ink style, that kind of what you started with. And he's bringing that back, and like I think he showed you some of the
stuff. He's going to stop doing the easy thing of oils on canvas and go to pencil.
I'm going to make it difficult.
He's going to go get a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, with a bunch of critics who are really, really analyzing my ink.
You suck.
No, I mean, dude, I'll be happy to talk to you about whatever you want to talk to you about. You know what I mean?
Nice.
More than happy to do that. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't know a lot about the art end of things, but I do understand the comic book industry pretty well, So, any questions you have, I'd be happy to talk to you guys about.
Yeah,
super cool.
Well, I got way too many questions. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but you've been awesome to have on the podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Actually watching us, because we actually have a video episode.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
Any final... have to say just a big thank you for real, and not just even thank you for your time and all of that, but I can honestly say to all who are listening that you can tell when someone is sincere even when their words don't match their sincerity, and I've had to learn that as an artist because I'm not as great with my words. But
words don't make word goes.
Yeah, that thing that people use called language.
Mouth sounds.
Just how kind Robert has been to us, to my family, listening to my son who's interested in writing and giving him tips and all of that. It means a lot. And I think that shows up in both the stories of Superman that we're getting. And I really am glad that there are people like you, sir, who are out there willing to continue to shed a little bit of good light on some things. And I'm so thankful that it exists, because if it didn't, then I guess we just have to rely on the next person to take over. And that's fine. But we need people like you. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Those are very kind words. And I appreciate y'all having me on, and I'm happy to come back, talk to you guys whenever.
Sweet.
We would love it.
Part 2 start getting more books to bring you to sign.
We're going to start collecting all this stuff.
Or whatever. Just bring it all out.
You don't have to buy it. You can just steal it, because I get paid the same either way.
Love it. See you guys.